Adding on to that, what I'm going to take away from this conference are three things. One is I'm going to make better food choices, and trying. Number two is to become more engaged in the process, in the political process. We've talked about how there's often a lobbying group behind something when you say, why would it be like that? Or who's allowing this to happen? And I wouldn't want to become more involved in that. And then the third thing is just sharing what I've learned here with other people. I hope that you take away from this that, there are people out there in your lives, I know there are people in my lives who want to hear about this. Every night, my wife and I are trying to figure out what do we put in front of our children to feed them? What do we say to my father-in-law and my mother-in-law who may be stick in the muds about, change? And is there a way that we can meet people halfway, or that we can meet people where they're at and change their lives as well? I have this a lot in my clinic, or when I see patients who I'm trying to convince them of stuff. And I think about, how would I reach this person? What can I say to them? And I'm going to start thinking about that when it comes to food choices. And I hope you will too.
So someone goes home tonight and their spouse is half asleep and they say, how was the panel? And it goes, great. And they say, what did they say? And they got 2 minutes to tell them, the specific action steps. So I guess what is the bottom line? What are the 3 to 5? What are the very specific things you are saying to do to best deal with all of these issues? What are the most specific tangible action steps? Should we take vitamin B12? Should we, what should we exactly do to have the most impact on all these issues?
Well, honey, there were these crazy people on stage tonight, and they convinced me that we can heal the world and our health and prevent and reverse climate change and save our soils and feed the world and create a more peaceful and beautiful society by eating less or no meat, and by eating whole plant foods, and by changing what we feed our kids, and changing what's taught in medical school, and getting antibiotics out of factory farms, and changing government subsidies so we stop subsidizing junk food and commodities crops, and and we can do all that tomorrow, sweetheart. And I'm being slightly facetious when I say tomorrow, but I will actually be honest that we kind of could. Because literally, all of that could happen very, very quickly. Human beings are remarkably resourceful creatures when we need to be. And I think this is the time when we need to be. Because the stakes are enormous and the cost of continuing on the status quo is devastating. But we have the capacity individually and collectively to create radical change. And you do not have to wait for government food policy or the current administration in Washington, nor for food companies or any other entity to change what you eat and what you feed your family. And then we can also organize, because I do believe that if the people lead, the leaders will follow. We can organize individually and collectively, and we create a new food economy that's based on life instead of death, that's based on healing instead of destruction. And in that process, we change the world.
I just am so honored to be here, and I'm so in love with these two beautiful men to each side of me here. I'm really I'm really impressed. Yeah, I really very. I know. It's so and Steve, right? And no, really to see the fact that really the programming is so deep it gets into us. Think about it. I mean, we're born, as soon as we're born, we come to, before we're born, we're in the womb, right? We're in the womb, and for in most cases, like in my case, my mother was eating meat, dairy products, and eggs. I was coming into me already. As soon as I'm born, a lot of kids don't even get their mother's breast anymore. I was lucky to get that, but the baby foods are chicken and veal and turkey and cheese. Feeding death to little kids. We're getting this food. It becomes the very cells of our being from the time we're little infants. It's the way we bond with everyone around us, at school, at church, wherever it is. The doctor's telling us we better make sure we get plenty of meat. The dentist is saying we make sure we eat plenty of dairy products and so forth. And so we're raised in a society where it's well understood that food is the most powerful way that we bond, and it's the most powerful way that our society transmits values. And these all go in at a very deep level from infancy. So the fact that we're able to come together and actually articulate these ideas and just say, no way, I'm rejecting that whole way of eating and the cultural story and the cultural narrative. It's really a tribal identity. Because think about it, people have been living tribally, and if I was to say to the rest of the tribe, hey, I'm not going to eat your food anymore, that's unthinkable. That's completely impossible. The tribe would say, okay, go off and die by yourself. That's it. So for us as vegans, we're basically saying to the tribe, I'm not eating your food anymore. And that's one of the reasons I think that people find vegans so upsetting, because we're challenging this unspoken, you just don't do that. You don't question the tribe's food. And so I think that's one of the reasons when we do make the shift to veganism, or to whatever you want to call it, eating a plant-based diet for ethical reasons and for the greater good, and for nonviolence and for liberation, we feel a deep obligation, I think, naturally, because we realize that we're in a really serious situation here, and in many ways, we're the only ones that have any power. Because, like for example, if there's a crime being committed publicly, right, there's three roles that are being enacted. Okay, so there's someone being mugged, right, a victim. There's someone else, a perpetrator, attacking them. But then since it's a public crime, there's an observer. There's a witness, a bystander who's seeing this. So the victim is hoping that this bystander will speak up, say something, stop. I'm going to call the police, jump in, help them. The perpetrator is hoping that this bystander just looks the other way, doesn't say anything, kind of walks away, just mind your own business, don't say anything. And the bystander has the choice to make in this situation. And so the world we're born into, in many ways it's pretty bleak in the sense that we have billions of victims, these animals who are being horribly abused, hyper-confined, mutilated, castrated, babies stolen in horrible violence. We also have literally billions of perpetrators, the people who are taking out their wallets. The perpetrator is someone, quite honestly, when I pay for this, that's where it happens. As soon as I pay for meat, dairy product stores, I'm paying someone to stab someone. So we have billions of but the perpetrators themselves are victims. The only reason they're doing it is because they've been abused as children and being forced into this behavior. It's not a free choice. We're just following orders that are harmful to our health. We're being exploited. Anyone who's eating animal foods is being exploited. They're the ones that are going to end up getting a heart bypass or getting diabetes and so forth typically. So we have the situation, it's kind of a death spiral. The perpetrators can't get out of it. The victims can't escape. They're just killing and eating and destroying. And it's only the bystanders. There's only a few vegans out here kind of watching this whole thing. And of course, the natural response for the people who are the perpetrators is just look the other way, don't say anything. Just shut up. You ever notice how people always say, there's that joke, like, how do you know if someone's a vegan? Don't worry, they'll tell you, right? That's the joke. But people don't like it that vegans are too uppity, right? We're talking too much, and we're kind of challenging them, or making them uncomfortable, and so forth. But really, that's our job. We should be making people uncomfortable, in a loving way. Somewhat respect, not just shaming and criticizing and blaming and that kind of thing, but helping people to be creatively uncomfortable, essentially, because the perpetrator and the victim in this situation are if this continues on, it's over. And so those of us who have managed somehow to escape from this prison are so blessed. We should really, I wake up every morning, I just give thanks. I always say the smartest thing I ever did 40 years ago, besides marrying Madeline like 25 years ago, but 40 years ago I went vegan. It was the smartest thing I ever did because it creates the foundation for liberation, for freedom, for joy, for abundance, for gratitude, and for radiant health. It's really a foundation that's solid. For beauty and creativity and joy. And so if we've discovered this, if we've been able to, then I think it's really incumbent upon us to deepen that in ourselves so that we're not dragged down to the same level. And I think the problem is a lot of us, when we become vegans or we make an effort to understand these things, we can immerse ourselves in the violence and the misery and the bad news, right? Who's watching the YouTube videos of undercover footage of factory farms and slaughterhouses? It's only vegans, right? We're the only ones watching that stuff. The meat eaters, they're not going to watch that. I want to enjoy my bacon. You can look at that if you want. I'm going to enjoy my bacon. I'm not going to look at that stuff. So they're not watching it. So we're watching all this. We're thinking, oh, and I've seen this happen over and over again. Someone comes up to someone and says, so I hear you're a vegan. And the person says, yeah, I'm a vegan. I'm telling you, there's so much suffering in the world. I mean, the animals are getting abused. The people don't care. They go to Kentucky Fried Killing and Junk in the Box and Murder King. There's just violence everywhere. It's just, once you understand this, it's so hard. And the person goes, wow, you're a vegan. Man, I sure am glad I'm not a vegan. Man, that sounds really heavy. So that happens a lot. We get so taken down and we get so angry and frustrated. We want to shake everybody till they go vegan. We want to, tell them, we want to criticize them, we want to shame them into it. And of course, people, they say that, we can't change people that way. How many people can we actually change, do you think? All right, that's the question. How many can we really change? See, the thing is, I think we can ultimately only change ourselves. I mean, in terms of changing someone. Because if someone came up to me and was trying to change me, what would I do? I would fight back. It's a natural response, healthy response to kind of, to protect ourselves if someone's trying to change us. But we can plant seeds of transformation in everyone. And I think this is really the key. There's a great poem by Walt Whitman. He wrote a poem called Song of Myself. And in that poem, there's a line that I really love. He said, I and mine, we do not convince by arguments. We convince by our presence. And I think this is the frontier for us as advocates for the real truth about health. It's to make an effort to embody what we're talking about, to embody kindness and respect and awareness, to embody an understanding of the big picture of our society, the woundedness that we've all endured, the interconnectedness of justice issues and health issues and environmental issues, understand how this all fits together and have compassion and respect for people who are wounded and are sick and are harming animals. If someone is wounded, you don't kick them and spit on them. You try to be loving. Love is the healing power, and veganism is love. That's really what it is. And so I think the more that we embody what veganism is as love, then we begin to be a force for transformation without trying to change people. The irony is, if I go around trying to change everybody, how many people change? Nobody. They all resist and they fight back. If I really transform myself so that I'm embodying what veganism is as kindness and respect for not only non-human animals, but for human animals, then everybody changes. Literally. I mean, people will change just by being in our presence. It happens. This is the frontier for our movement. I really feel this. As we create a movement where instead of trying to change everybody else, we're working on ourselves to embody this and then articulate it from our hearts as love and awareness, we create a movement that's absolutely unstoppable. And it's happening. We see it happening. People are really waking up and realizing this is not a movement where we're just going to beat them down and win. This is a movement where we all change together. We awaken and we help each other to awaken. It's a movement of love and kindness and respect for all life. And it is unstoppable because it's based on the truth of our interconnectedness and the truth of our connectedness with the infinite awareness that is our true nature. And so to cultivate that, to plant those seeds and water those seeds in other people and see that everyone that we see is a potential vegan advocate. And really, everyone is. There's no one who's unreachable, I don't think. And to see the best in other people whenever we address them, and address that in them. And I think when we do this, we are creating a movement that's unstoppable. So thank you all so much for the efforts you're making. Thank you.
I'll end with a short final thought, which is that my book came out a few months ago, and I was at a book fair, and I was standing in front of it. And there were a number of other authors with their books. And it was a mix of fiction and nonfiction, of history, mystery, all kinds of stuff. And I noticed that there was a subset of people, maybe a third of the people who came by when they would be looking at the novels and looking at whatever they were looking at. They had a nice smile on their face, and then they'd get to my book and they'd go, ugh. Not everyone, but there were some. And I say, well, what's up? And the thing was, they basically said, I got enough to worry about. I don't need another thing to drag me down. And I said, well, this isn't a downer of a story. I said, I wouldn't write a book if we were failing in this, about people dying. This is a beautiful story, and it's one of humans helping humans. It's people looking to our earth for resources to help heal people. And that this is a story that's ultimately uplifting, and one that fills me with hope that every day there are people coming together to try to help strangers who have these infections. And just being up here on this panel, hearing about the things I've learned just from tonight about humans helping humans, sharing knowledge. I think it's a really beautiful thing. And I can tell you, you all pay far more attention to the stuff that I say than the medical students do. The lecture hall is, so thank you to all of you for coming out tonight. It's been a wonderful panel.